Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily for Friday, April 25th. We made it to the end of another week, and that is always cause for celebration. Here to celebrate with me, my co-host today, Minna Stein. How are you doing today, Minna, on this fine Friday?
I am happy it's Friday. We made it through another week, like you said.
Yes, we made it, but we're not out of the woods yet because we have a few news stories to go over before we crash into the weekend. So what do you got to start us off?
Well, we're definitely going to need the weekend to crash into. But we'll start with something a little bit positive. President Trump faced multiple legal setbacks on Thursday as federal judges blocked key administration initiatives targeting immigration enforcement, voting regulations, and diversity programs in education. A judge in D.C. halted Trump's executive order requiring proof of citizenship for federal voter registration, ruling it oversteps executive power, while a California judge blocked efforts to strip funding from sanctuary cities, citing due process violations. Additionally, judges in Maryland and New Hampshire ruled against the administration's attempt to withhold federal funds from school districts with DEI programs, saying it likely violated First Amendment protections against free speech. So, starting off positive, judges doing their jobs, blocking things that deserve to be blocked for very valid reasons, like overstepping executive power and violating First Amendment rights. So, a small win on this fine Friday morning.
It does seem like after the initial barrage from the administration that they are getting mired in legal challenges. Even the Supreme Court, which is skewed conservative, has been ruling against the administration on some key issues. So it's heartening to see that the courts are resisting. The question is always whether or not the administration is actually going to pay attention or just muscle through with these things. But it's heartening that there is some kind of resistance, and hopefully it will continue.
Yes. And that's kind of why I say small victory, because who knows what this actually means under any other circumstances. I think it would be a huge victory, but you never know these days what nonsense will follow. Something that seems good. So definitely something to watch. But today we can just spend the day being glad that judges are doing their jobs.
Yes. Hip, hip, hooray for that. Well, some not great news. In a recent interview, President Trump stated that Crimea will stay with Russia, suggesting Ukraine should concede the territory to end the war. He accused Ukrainian President Zelensky of prolonging the conflict by refusing to negotiate, even as deadly Russian strikes continue across Ukraine. Trump expressed rare public criticism of Russian President Putin over recent missile and drone attacks, calling for a peace deal. Despite U.S. efforts toward the ceasefire, Russia has intensified assaults while peace negotiations remain stalled. I'm not too surprised about this. It seemed like getting Crimea back was going to be a long shot, especially in the recent months of the conflict as the pendulum kind of swung back against Ukraine. And it seems like Russia has the momentum. It seemed unlikely that Ukraine was going to get Crimea back. So I'm not really that surprised by this. But, as we've said on this show before, it's hard to even say what the resolution will be because the administration changes from day to day. Putin is obviously going to continue to play the administration and try and get a better outcome. And Zelensky just seems to be unable to get a win politically with the United States for whatever reason. The Trump administration has clearly decided that they favor Putin over Zelensky. So we'll see. Just because Trump has said this doesn't mean he'll say it again tomorrow. Could do the opposite tomorrow. It's hard to say.
Yeah, everything this administration and Trump says or does on this issue is simultaneously the most surprising and least surprising move that they could do at the same time. So both equally disappointing. And moving our focus over a little bit to Congress, Republicans in Congress are preparing a $150 billion defense package that significantly boosts President Trump's Golden Dome missile defense program with a $27 billion investment alongside broader military enhancements, including warship building and space sensing. The funding, tied to a $5 trillion tax cut bill, also allocates billions for AI, unmanned systems, and munitions, aiming to strengthen U.S. military capabilities, especially in the Indo-Pacific, to deter threats like China. The package will be advanced through budget reconciliation, allowing it to pass with a simple majority, and includes long-term funding that won't expire at the fiscal year's end. Well, one thing I will say about this story that I read is that one of the companies that is up to create this Golden Dome, unsurprisingly, is Elon Musk's SpaceX. So that will come as a surprise to no one that he's got his hands all over this defense bill.
Yeah. This will almost certainly pass. One of the great American traditions is that there's bipartisan agreement to always blow more money on defense. So I don't really see this facing a lot of resistance. That is one of the few things that we have consistent bipartisan agreement on over the last 30 years. So this will probably pass. But the thing that I find interesting is the $27 billion for the Golden Dome. Their estimates are that the Golden Dome is going to cost $2.5 trillion. So make no mistake, this is going to be, if they continue to pursue this, a incredibly costly endeavor. And that is their estimate. It is, of course, going to go over. Military contracts almost always go too long and cost way more than projected. So 2.5 trillion is really the minimum that's going to cost. And I don't necessarily see that as a wise use of money if you're really concerned about cutting the national debt and saving taxpayer dollars.
But we don't care about that. We care about flashy, tacky, Golden Dome displays of immense wealth. We don't care about taxpayers.
Something that cannot work. But, it sounds good. It's the same reason.
Does it, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody would love it if we had a defense system that essentially made mainland United States impervious to missile attacks. But, there's a reason Star Wars never happened, because it's just not feasible for a landmass the size of the continental United States to have a missile defense system a la the Iron Dome in Israel.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I guess if we're thinking in Star Wars terms, it does sound cool.
Some other news that is a little bit of a blast from the past. Former Congressman George Santos will be sentenced today after pleading guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft, with prosecutors seeking over 7 years in prison. They argue Santos has shown little genuine remorse and remains a repeat fraudster, despite expressing contrition in court. His defense team has requested a lighter sentence of 2 years, citing nonviolent motives tied to political desperation. Once a rising political figure, Santos became infamous for a web of lies and financial schemes to lead to his expulsion from Congress and widespread public condemnation. Yeah, Santos has no remorse for this. He would not be selling cameos and making TikToks if he was genuinely remorseful over what he did. I don't know if 7 years is a fair punishment or not. I don't know the law, but yeah, I think the argument that he's shown little remorse and is a repeat fraudster is pretty ironclad. I don't really know how you escape that one if you're the Santos defense team.
Yeah, it would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. There's just something about him that is like you said, he's like a snake oil salesman, but he also just has a way of putting things like, I don't know if you saw that video from a while ago that was like him carrying a baby, and then a reporter was like, "Is that your baby?" And he said, "Not yet." There's just like something about him that's a little sketchy, which obviously he is very sketchy, but he just has a way of putting things. Well, to end today on a note that is not good, so sorry to end on a sour note, President Trump has launched an investigation into ActBlue, a key Democratic fundraising platform, alleging it enables unlawful foreign donations and straw donor schemes, sparking alarm among Democrats who rely heavily on it for campaign contributions. The move follows ongoing GOP scrutiny and comes amid record-breaking fundraising by ActBlue, with Democrats fearing potential disruptions such as account freezes that could hinder campaign operations. While the administration frames the action as a step to protect election integrity, Democrats view it as a politically motivated attack on their campaign infrastructure. And that is because it is a politically motivated attack on their campaign infrastructure. This is a really scary thing that they're doing. And I hope that it is blocked by judges. I hope it doesn't get any further than this, but it definitely is a very blatant attack on Democratic campaigning to make it weaker so that Republicans have the advantage in certain competitive districts.
Yeah. Going after opposition funding, not good. Not good for democracy, but also, this would be disastrous for the Democrats if it actually worked. So hopefully it will not. But hard to say. This seems like something that is ripe for being blocked again on a legal front if they really pursue this, but I guess we'll have to see. Well, that's all we've got for today. Some positive stories in there, which it seems rare these days. So, reason to celebrate, reason to be positive going into the weekend. But fear not, because we have more podcasts coming today. We've got Scylla Consciousness coming later this afternoon, so stay tuned for that. And we will be back on Monday with more DSR Daily and the rest of the DSR network. But until then, enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and bye-bye.